Hey guys, accomplished the impossible here today with a interesting video I have not seen done yet on a certain type of radio. My last video was the XG-75P, which is my daily carry and take it almost everywhere I go. But today we're going to be talking about different radios. I have not seen a whole lot of videos, or really any videos, in detail about a model called the XG-75P. These little XG-75Ps are what I was used to using as a firefighter a while back, and these were used day to day on the fire ground. The particular ones that I used were a 7 and 800 band radio. These particular radios are UHF, all the way from 378 to 470 meg, I believe. And they are really, really good radios for what you get. These radios will run you about $400, give or take, on eBay. I've seen some go for $600 for the full button keypad. For what I do, I don't need a full button keypad. Anyway, they are really small radios when you are comparing size to the XG-100P. So as far as side profile, and then here's front profile, and here is top profile. So you see a little bit of a difference. It's a lot smaller radio to have. If I was at a business or if I was at a fire department, I wouldn't necessarily want to be carrying around this massive brick with me all day long. The antenna kind of gets in the way sometimes, and I'm always worried about it bending in ways it's not supposed to be bent for a given period of time, which is where people have that weird antenna and it scans over and stays like that. So I just don't like that. This was a good little daily carry for my fire department that I was at, and I figured the opportunity arose about a month ago to purchase some online, and these things ran me about $275 a radio, so it was a heck of a deal. Couldn't pass that up. So I pulled the trigger and I learned a ton on these little guys. There's a lot to learn and a lot to cover. If anybody has an itch to try these little guys, or if they have a itch to jump into the Harris world and they want to get involved and they see this radio for $200 to $300, I think $400 is a little bit much for one of these things, but $200 you really can't go wrong. And if you brick it through a firmware upgrade and whatnot, just to play around with the programming software and everything, it's not a big loss as compared to my 100P, where I didn't want to be messing around with firmware on this guy because this is over a $1,000 radio, so didn't want to make that sacrifice. But if this little guy bricked, it'd be sad, but it wouldn't be the end of the day. And sometimes these are readily available online, so you just gotta keep track of them. Anyway, so upon first overview of this thing, like I said, it's much smaller than the XG-100. It feels really good in the palm of the hand. And the top here is the speaker, and the microphone is right here. Along with the back side, there's an additional microphone here. In the programming software, you can set the back microphone to be noise canceling. I currently don't have that enabled, but it has the option to do that if that's needed. Personally, I think where these radios really shine, if you're just a run-of-the-mill radio or a business trying to get some radios, but you have a need for intrinsically safe radios, this will do the job. This is a intrinsically safe radio, and it has all of the tags on it. If it'll want to focus, I don't know. I'm recording this on a different camera today, but like I said, it's FM approved, UL listed, and intrinsically rated. So these are really, really nice radios for I don't know, maybe a refinery option if you can still get them, or small business. Probably not refinery scale because they're not readily available, and these are end of life, I think back in 2015. So there's mixed ones about that. Some say they have longer support than they were intended. Anyway, the battery itself, if you get a new battery for it, this one is a nickel metal hydride. This thing lasts me about 7 to 8 hours, half duty, so keying on it 50% of that time. This last me a good while. I would say if you're gonna get into these radios, buy a new battery. I tried to save some money, and I should have seen that coming. The batteries I had lasted a whole like 20 minutes, so I would just say spend the extra $50, buy the new battery, and be done with it. If you can get a lithium, even better. So, like I said, these radios are lighter than the XG-100s, but you have a trade-in. They don't do multi-band coverage. The XG-100 does all band, essentially, and the XG-75s come in different flavors. This particular flavor, as I said earlier, is UHF from 378 to 400 something. They come in the 450 range, they come in 7-800 range, and they come in the VHF range. The UHF wide coverage is going to be equivalent to Motorola's Range 1, and that's going to be model number Echo Victor X-Ray Golf dash Papa Bravo Uniform 1 Bravo, and that is shown on the back. So if you see a description somewhere on eBay that shows these little guys, that is what you want to pay attention to if you want a good UHF version. So here is the kicker. This is pretty remarkable to me. Two completely different radios, both the same manufacturer. I personally feel the audio on the XG-75 is better than the XG-100P.
This is the audio test with the XG-100P radio. Test 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. This is the audio test on the XG-75P radio. Test 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
This has a much more bass depth to it, so it's easier to get a more depth perception and a better, just a warmer signal or a warmer sound. Whereas the XG-75 or the XG-100P, in my opinion, seems to be lacking that bass or that emphasis. So here's the other. Here's some issues with this little radio. Again, this requires the RPM 1 and 2 software, or the RPM software. So as I said in my XG-100M video or 100P video, that can be difficult to get. If you guys have it and you have all the equipment to do so, I would definitely recommend these radios. They're really nice little radios, and I really like them for business handout radios or something like that. So keep in mind, again, these are end of life. They aren't not supported through Harris anymore, but if you can get them, they're usually a really good price. And if we're comparing this to the like Motorola SRX, or the monoband modern Motorola, those things run like $1,200 used, and that's just a used price. These things run, like I said, $200 to $300, and they do the same thing. They do phase 2, phase 1. They can come fully enabled with AES 256, DES, like I said, phase 1, phase 2, conventional, analog, wideband, narrowband, everything, and you're pretty much set to go. So they'll do anything that your other radios will do if you make sure you have the right feature sets. Again, in my last video of the XG-100, I want to emphasize that the wideband issue is also subject to these. If you have a wideband, Unity wideband disabled, and this has that feature code on it, it will also fall victim to the wideband disabled feature, as expected. So that's another issue with these radios. It's part of the Harris lineup. That's just what they do, and that seems to be the norm with that. And that's kind of everywhere. Kenwood, Motorola, Harris, they all do the same thing. So it is what it is. I guess on the top end, we have an A and B selector, and I have that to lock and unlock. The XG-100P doesn't have that. It just has this little concentric switch here, and that's about it. And then we have ABC on the channel select, whereas we don't even have an ABC option for the XG-75, which I don't use the ABC for anything. So if that's an issue for you, you may not want to get these, but I've just never had a use for it. Anyway, the other issue with this radio is this little turd. This is the programming cable for that radio, and I'm going to read this off, and I hope this is relevant and somebody understands what I'm saying here, because this is extremely important. If you take anything away from this video, take it right here. This is a programming cable. These are a little hard to find online. The company that has them is New London Technologies, and I got mine for about $220. That's the best price you're gonna find on this kind of cable. So if you can find a cheaper price on this cable, go for it. This was purchased brand new from New London, and Harris, the model number to this is Charlie Alpha 023-407-001 Rev Echo, and then it has an additional number on the bottom, which is 2232. The reason I'm making such a fuss about this is because there's another cable running around out there. The other cable is a encryption keyload cable. So you don't buy that cable using it to program your radio. Your radio is not going to recognize it. It's not going to work. So this is a programming cable. Now, I just found this out today. But the programming cable will do keyload and it will do programming. Don't know what the difference with that one is, but that's just the way it is. So, like I said, keyloading, programming. The programming cable will do both if you have key admin software to upload. These currently are enabled for AES, and I was just experimenting with it earlier, and they do, in fact, AES encryption. And I was able to upload with the programming cable with that model number I mentioned. And as for the buttons, we have a top, lower, push to talk button here, and on the other side we just have the microphone hookup. This does allow for a microphone with the antenna built into it, so that's kind of nice. It's very small. And this is a UHF range 1 antenna. I'm gonna say range 1 because it sounds better than trying to name off the whole frequency set as equivalent to Motorola. Some programming items with this little guy, or with these radios, are they need a serial connector, so you have to use USB to serial or direct serial into the computer, and they're just a standard lapel mic connector. It's nothing special. Speaking of lapel mic for this, I don't have a lapel mic, but I feel like this giant connector for the mic is just a little extreme. I will say that's one thing I like about Motorola's is they eliminate this whole side right here to where that's really all it is. But this, we have this big connector here. And some mics allow for antennas built into it, so like that was what that little thing on the side was for. What else do we want to know about this radio? Updating firmware and all that's pretty simple. I would just recommend, if you're going to be messing around with firmware or burn apps or anything like that, you need a OEM cable. Don't buy anything used, third-party, aftermarket, or don't ever try to program a radio or firmware. Programming's fine, but don't ever try to do a firmware upgrade with a non-OEM cable, whether that's a Motorola radio or a Harris radio. Just keep in mind, these things are really hard to find, and they're about $220 brand new. I think I've seen a few deals out there for used for $150. There's nothing wrong with the used. I just went with the new. Might as well. Here's kind of what the screen looks like. It's just your standard digitizer screen. The system I'm on is at the top, then the channel, and then the key symbolizes 250 AES 256 encryption is enabled. 25 in the square means P25, and the battery indicators on the right, and then the chain link on the far left indicates that it is DPL locked. So that brings up a good subject, is these radios. So here's my biggest complaint about Harris P25 or Harris radios in general. Every single Harris radio out there, as far as the XG series, I can't speak to the XL, but the XG series has a flaw that was never addressed in the Harris system, or Harris never addressed it in general. Your radio is always going to open up to analog, even if you set a P25 channel So like, let's say I want to set a P25 conventional channel or a simplex channel. My radio will open up at any given time, even if I only want it to be P25, to an analog signal if there is no channel guard or any input receive PL required on the analog side. Whereas Motorola, you can lock it down to just say, no, I just want this to be a digital channel, nothing else. I don't want to hear anything else. And it will do it. The Harris does not do that. I don't know why. I think that was a terrible, terrible idea. And for a lot of people, that may be a no-go. But the easiest workaround is just to put all your P25 info in, and then where it says receive tone or receive channel guard is what they call it, which channel guard means tone and DPL. But I just put 1, 2, 3 as the channel guard, and nobody has ever used 1, 2, 3 as their DPL, so I've never had a problem with it, and it seems to work perfect. So that's a fix to that. But if somebody was around me working on a radio that they had actually a transmit PL of or a DPL of 123, then it would open up my Harris. That's my only issue. So with that being said, that's kind of all about the XG-75s. If you guys got any questions, put them in the comments. I'll do my best to answer them, and maybe other people can answer for me. Or if you guys want to see some additional info on these radios, let me know. We will say have a great day. This is Accomplish the Impossible, out.